we're live. Don't forget if someone calls to
kind of reiterate what they're saying. Well, that's good. The hurricane's going on the west coast. That'll have less, should have less of a storm surge. And again, I don't know anything about hurricanes.
What's so big? Does it even matter?
It's so huge, it's going to cover the whole thing. Any other good news in the news this week you can think of, Shan?
I haven't really been.
I'm going to talk about the
Yankees have fallen 4.5 games behind Boston after their 11-5 loss against Texas. Patriots off this week.
We'll talk about psych meds and offspring. Study correlated taking psych meds with more psychiatric disorders in children on the mothers who are on the drugs. We're going to talk about laryngopharyngeal reflux. Very common disorder, people always clearing their throats, tightness in the sore throat. They found that a plant-based diet combined with alkaline water intake was as good as, if not better than, taking drugs.
Good luck trying to convince people to just have a plant-based diet. But how interesting, right? That's how you can, and you'd be better off anyway.
And I'm gonna correlate these two.
Complimentary appointment. Listen to Stephen every Sunday, 9 to 10 a.m. Now, looking at the Ride 95 for your rough patches.
Study done in from the Mayo Clinic. Too much exercise after heart attack led to an increased death rate compared to lower levels of exercise.
For how long?
Well, it would have to do with intensity. So people who are exercising at greater than 7 METs had an increased death rate compared to those exercising at a lower level. 7 METs would be jogging, jump roping, aerobics classes. Less than that would be like a leisurely bike ride or walking at 3 to 3.5 miles per hour. Increased death rate. So we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Interesting. What do they make you do at the cardiac rehab?
It's a great question, and I'm not sure if they keep you at a lower level. With the
can't even like jumping rope there.
Where is the 18%?
I'm Doug Lizette, WPRO News. Stay tuned now for Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Steve Petteruti. WPRO News Time is 8:06.
The following paid program is furnished by Dr. Steve Petteruti. It's for basic entertainment and informational purposes only, and is solely responsible for its content. It does not necessarily reflect the views of Cumulus Media, its management, or its staff. News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM, WPRO presents Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Join Dr. Petteruti as he guides people towards living the 120 lifespan and maintaining youth. He'll apply logic, reason, and scientific evidence to address conditions that drain people of their joy and vitality while protecting people from the harmful aspects of conventional medicine. Now, here's Dr. Steve Petteruti.
Good morning, Rhode Island. It's Dr. Petteruti. You're listening to Intellectual Medicine on the Voice of Southern New England, WPRO. Welcome to the show. Beautiful day out there. Today we're going to be talking about exercise and heart disease. Is there such a thing as too much? If you've had a heart attack or you have heart disease, how much exercise should you take? And we'll tie that in and discuss erectile dysfunction medications. I hear a lot of people after they've had a heart attack, Shannon, and they're nervous to resume sexual activity. So we're going to discuss that today. And it means when you're getting a sore throat, a sinus symptoms, constant clearing of the throat, often associated with reflux, and a study out showing a difference between treatment approaches. But first, Shannon first, the flags are at half-mast. Benny's is closing.
I can't believe it.
I know.
Shocking.
You know what's odd? Not odd, but I'm actually sad.
Well,
it's affecting me emotionally.
You love Benny's.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. You really did. Well, it's in our town. You need something, you go to Benny's.
And, I like the color. I like the name. I like how friendly they are.
Always. And do they not have any... So we used to play this joke that, I bet you they won't have it this time. And every single time, right?
That's
say,
there.
We'll go check Benny first. And they would have it. I don't understand.
It's
how they
strange.
Have, everything.
You can go to get a notebook for your kid and at the same time pick up a mop and oil for your car. It's there. Oh, and by the way, Halloween decorations. Now, seriously, folks, why is this happening? Benny's is closing, a robust store with a great reputation, and it's because it's not profitable enough to attract a new buyer. So what's going on? Did our state leaders fall asleep at the wheel? Was this closure coming? Did they have advance notice? Should they have done something and taken action to preserve over 300 permanent jobs, Shannon? Over 300.
I know.
You know, we have resources, and we're applying those. Here we are. We're running all over the country. We're chasing jobs, chasing companies, throwing cash at them, trying to get them to come here. Recently, we allocated $2.1 million that is going to attract or preserve, not preserve, but attract new jobs, about 75 new jobs, $2.1 million. That's $28,000 per job. I did some quick math, folks. At a state tax rate of 4.75%, they estimated these jobs would be between 80 and 100,000. It will take over 6 years for the income tax to pay back that amount of money, 2.1 million. And 6 years from now, your return on investment is $0. Meanwhile, you know, that's front page news. Meanwhile, 300 and plus jobs are going out the window because Benny's is closing. You know, here's what I think we should do. Get a state commission to assess legacy businesses in the state of Rhode Island.
What other businesses like Benny's do we have?
Well, you think of, well, like look at Cardi's, a great business. You can't take them for granted. You know, we were at on television show a couple weeks ago.
Roadshow?
Thank you. We were at the road show, and the Benny's guys were there. I had to tell you.
The Benny's or Cardi's?
I'm sorry, Cardi's. I'm confusing them. Benny's should have been there, maybe lobbying for their stores, but no, the Cardi's guys were there. They're very genuine, and they are every place. Great corporate citizens. You know who wasn't there, Shannon? You know who I don't see around Rhode Island sponsoring pumpkin carving, hiring our citizens? You know who I don't see? Jeff Bezos and Amazon. I don't see them around.
No.
I don't see Amazon sponsoring efforts to make Rhode Island a better state. Look, you know, Cardi's doesn't have to do that much. Let's face it. They're a pretty big name. By the way, let me emphasize, we get sponsored by nobody, but very authentic. And I think that this commission that I'm proposing should study the legacy businesses throughout the state. You know, you still have jewelry businesses here. They're small and they employ people and they're critical. And they're all being neglected. As we chase the prettier girl, you're ignoring the one on your arm to chase the one down the street. And there's a great example of this right now. We're pursuing Amazon. Their national headquarters is going to locate in Rhode Island.
They wouldn't even fit. Where would we even put a building that big?
50,000 employees, and we are, quote, in the game, end quote. Folks, this is political fodder. It makes it look like something's being done for our economy when we're wasting time. Does anybody out there really believe Amazon's going to plop 50,000 jobs in Rhode Island? They're going to say, Eureka, this is a superb business environment with immense political clout. No, this is dumb. We should be collaborating with the regional states to bring them into New England. There's a better location. Maybe we'd have a shot then. You know, it's like the hometown boy dating the homecoming queen decides he's going to go to Hollywood to try to snag Julia Roberts. It's just, you got to dance with the one that got you there. So I'm advocating that. Now, what does this have to do with healthcare, medicine? It all ties together. It has to do with quality of life and having the capacity to invest in your health. And that requires a certain amount of money. You know, Shannon was talking to one of our clients and pursuing anti-aging therapies. And she was talking about budgetary constraints, and they're real. You know, healthcare insurance does not and will not ever pay for life extension anti-aging therapies. They will never pay for it. It's not categorized as a disease. It's considered just the natural course of human existence. And perhaps it should be considered that. But I maintain that there's an unfunded liability that you need to look at your household budget and put a line item there for life extension. Think about it this way, Shan. 50, 70 years ago, when folks were working, say you were a 25-year-old entering the workforce 50 years ago, you're 75 today. Do you think that they were contemplating a line item budget for health insurance in retirement? No. Health insurance was a pittance. It wasn't even on the radar screen. Now look at it. It's a 400-pound gorilla. Likewise, think about television. You know, when I was growing up, Shannon, television was
Right.
free. Do you remember
Was.
that?
I do. You had the ears, put tinfoil on it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Better, you know.
TV. Does anybody out there think we have better shows now than we did back then? Free television. Your line item per month for television was about $0. Now you've got a TV in every room. You've got 1 million channels with 1,000 shows, 90% of which are garbage, and you're paying $200 a month or more. It's snuck into your life. It's a line item that doesn't really enhance quality at all. Life extension medicine, anti-aging therapy, intellectual medicine. You got to be thinking about this if you want to live your best and longest life. We're going to be talking about some examples of it throughout the course of our show. But the good news is that intellectual medicine is spreading. And
That's right, we are.
it's not going to be an isolated phenomenon, but rather a bit of a movement. Why? Why do we need this? Well, to protect you folks and to help you live longer and better. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about heart disease, Shannon. What can you do to prevent it? What should you do to stay alive? Is sex good or bad? And how much exercise is best? I'm Dr. Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. We'll see you after the break. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
You always
That's
do.
not true.
You always
I
do.
studied this extensively. I put great thought into it.
I do the theme song. It's sung by the Benny's chorus.
FM's my station.
Of course, that sounds beautiful. Have you ever shopped at Benny's?
Oh yeah, I'm from Greenville. Are you kidding me?
It's not too late. We can save Benny's.
No, Benny wants to retire.
I gotta give compliments to the Narragansett Bay Commission for that green energy initiative. What's that, love? Oh, Narragansett Bay Commission.
Oh, no.
Yep.
What did they do?
They process sewage. Like when you flush your toilet, they take care of what goes down the drain. Oh, look, Shen, an ad for Nexium.
No, see?
Why eat right when all you have to do is take a pill? Yep.
I know. Well, it's so easy because you can still eat your steak and your...
Hey, we should have insiders for our Facebook listeners. Good morning, everybody. Hello, Facebook world. I think Facebook is fabulous. I'm not on Facebook, but I think it's a great thing. What should we do? We got to give these guys. Here's an inside pitch, right? We've developed, maybe it's not so inside, a drip at our center. It's called the Time Machine, and it is designed for general health enhancement, youth preservation, to help fight heart disease, brain dementia, and to help restore and support your immune function so you have a better chance against cancer. Those are the big three, aren't they? It's heart disease, dementia, and cancer. You've got to address these three. Otherwise, why live longer? And the fourth one is physical and sexual vitality. I don't want to live longer just to be decrepit. So if we address these things now, we have a much better chance of restoring and extending our life in a high quality manner later. This is real science. This is not charlatanism. This is not, creams that you're getting at Lancome, as good as they may be. This is stuff that's affecting the cells of your body. It's science and it's happening now. So I partake of it and feeling pretty good at 58, Shan. I feel better now than I did 10 years ago. I do. Of course, part of it, I'm married to you. That's part of the restorative value. One thing I have not regained, vertical lift.
Did you ever have vertical lift?
I did.
Oh, you did. You were a high jumper.
I was a high jumper. That's right. I was a 200-pound high jumper. It was a day when I could grab the rim. So long ago. I wonder if I trained hard. I wonder if I could grab the rim again. I could. What we need to do, we need to lower the rim.
Springs, yeah. The springs in your shoes.
We need to lower the rim.
September 8th through the 10th at the Church of the Annunciation, 175 Oakland Avenue, Cranston. There's park and ride, free shuttle buses to and from Cranston West High School. Need more information? Visit Cranston Greek Festival on Facebook. That's this Friday through Sunday with something for everyone. Look for Cranston Greek Festival on Facebook.
Everybody's got a favorite spot.
Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
I just don't know if I can go on. I got a lump in my throat. You know, Shannon, never mind all these political issues. I'm calling upon the people of Rhode Island to march at Burnside Park to preserve Benny's. 300 plus jobs are at stake. What can we do? This just seems so wrong.
Nothing. They just want to retire.
Let
them go.
Somebody can want to buy it. Somebody wants to buy Benny's. Isn't there anybody out there, some entrepreneur? Doesn't somebody need a job? Okay, you know, by the way, let me just, a quick sidebar, then we're going to talk about heart disease. First, you know, we were in that studio and I met the mayor of Pawtucket. Nice guy, sincere advocate for his city. And I'm going to say that, you know, we need to get over our post-traumatic stress disorder from Kurt Schilling's debacle, and we need to preserve and enhance these local institutions. So I'm actually in favor of the private-public partnership that will keep the Paw Sox and get a new stadium in Rhode Island. I've heard skeptics. Who's going to go there? Who's going to pay those prices? You know what? Build it and they will come.
They will. Look at us trying to get Patriot tickets.
Well, what Shannon's referring to, right? Well, I thought it'd be a good idea to go to a Patriots game. This is before they became 0-1, but we still have faith. That's like $1,000.
That's what I'm saying. And look, it's full. I mean, someone's going to go.
You know what it is? You build quality and people are going to find their way there. And so too with this. But Benny's, God, we got to get him back. Well, listen, compliments to the Narragansett Bay Commission, recently signing a contract where they're going to get 100% of their energy from wind and solar. Now, these are the folks that process sewage in many towns and cities throughout Rhode Island. And it makes me think that we can do better. We don't need to be burning so much fossil fuel. We just need to have a commitment to do differently. Now, you can buy energy from different sources, right? You don't have to buy it from National Grid. I just found that out recently. I wonder if you can buy energy from a green source. I wonder if there's a company that supplies solar and wind energy alone, and that's what you tap into. Shane, we got to look into that. Would you pay more money for that?
I would.
How much more?
Like 10 cents.
10 cents. No, but give me a percentage.
Oh, 15%.
15%, right? I'm going to go as high as 20. So the point being that we would pay more money to get that kind of energy. But, you know, energy is important. Without energy, there's no life. And one of the biggest symptoms that we hear at intellectual medicine every day is low energy. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely.
And when people lack energy, they don't like it. And think about that. Energy is the fuel of life, and a drop in energy can be a prelude to illness, a symptom of illness, and it reminds us of our mortality, gets us one step closer to death. Well, heart disease is still the #1 killer out there, folks. #1 for men and women. So we need to know what's going to matter and what can help us. Now, there was a study done by the Mayo Clinic looking at exercise in people who've had a heart attack. Now, this study may not apply to those of you who are currently healthy and have never had heart disease. But what they found was that intense exercise actually increased your risk of death and heart attacks when compared to mild and light exercise. Now, that is a bit counterintuitive. You know, in America, we go hard, we go fast, you get boot camps, and everything's intense. There's something about that kind of intensity, however, that exacts a toll on your body. Increasing free radicals. These free radicals are unstable molecules that can attack your brain, your heart, weaken the immune system. So, I mean, by the way, intense means this. They measure exercise in something called METs, M-E-T. It's a unit of measurement. 7 or more METs correlated with that decreased benefit. And a 7 MET exercise would be jogging, would be jumping rope, it would be doing an aerobics class, when compared to walking at 3 to 3.5 miles per hour, or a leisurely bike ride. And for those of you at the gym, that's 100 watts on your screen. Now, I don't know if that'll extrapolate into healthy adults, but I do know that there's a study that compares marathon runners with people of their same body type who don't run marathons. And the marathon runners don't live as long as their comparative group. So the message here, folks, is more is not always better. Now the other question, another question where lower is not always better has to do with cholesterol. and recent recommendations regarding the use of cholesterol drugs. That is, the American College of Cardiology recommends lowering your LDL by 50% if you have had heart disease or coronary artery disease. And they recommend doing it with drugs, of course. And if the first line of drugs, the statin drugs, aren't good enough, they recommend adding other drugs such as Zetia or a new class of drug known as PCSK9 inhibitors, one brand of which is Repatha. They don't mention chelation, Shannon.
Of course not.
Chelation.
No one's making money on that.
So chelation is the use of intravenous vitamins and calcium EDTA, actually it's disodium or calcium EDTA, that pulls out toxic heavy metals, reduces free radicals, is therapeutic to the lining of that artery. Now, it's high dose vitamin C is mixed in that too, Shannon, and vitamin C is a core component of collagen. And collagen is the rubbery stuff that makes up your arteries. Your arteries lose their balance, folks. That ain't good. They're more likely to crack, break, and make clots. Well, this study, a huge study by the National Institute of Health, they spent $31 million studying chelation. And what they really wanted to do, folks, they wanted to bury it. They wanted the study to come out showing no benefit so they could eliminate any support for chelation. This, by the way, has been around for over 30 years. Many patients have noted benefit with regard to heart disease, brain clarity, energy, used for peripheral vascular disease. Well, much to the chagrin of conventional orthodox medicine, the treatment actually showed to work, reducing complications such as death, heart attack, and stroke across the board, all the complications by 18% above and beyond drug therapy and all the other secondary prevention modalities. That, folks, is breathtaking. You've not heard about it, and that's a shame. You know, I maintain, Shannon, that people are needlessly losing life and health because of the stifling backlash against chelation.
It is. It should be on the front page.
Right.
Huge story.
If this were a drug, it would be a blockbuster to be on the cover of Time magazine. So instead of encouraging and promoting this, they decided to shuffle it back to committee. You know what you do with a result you don't like in medicine? You do another study. It's like taking a bill in politics you don't like and putting it to committee where it goes to die. So they're really hopeful of killing it this time and getting a result. And I don't think it's going to happen. The next study is going to validate the first study. It took about 5 to 10 years for the first study to be designed and launched. Well, you know what, folks? If you had a heart attack within the last couple of years, you may not have that much time to waste. Intellectual medicine has pioneered this turf, and we're doing it in some cases against the prevailing winds of orthodox medicine. Now, bear in mind, I am trained in orthodox medicine. I am a board-certified family doctor. I'm also board-certified in anti-aging therapies and certified in chelation therapies. As I've said before, and I have maybe a little bit of a complex, so I go out and I get lots of certificates to hang on the wall. I look at them every day to remind me of how good I am. It's like, anyhow, the point here is that you combine these modalities in many cases. It's not either or. It's not that orthodox medicine is globally bad. It's that it is pompous. It's full of itself, and it thinks it knows everything. I call that the arrogance of the moment. 20 years ago, we thought we knew what caused ulcers, right? Too much acid and stress. Oops, we were wrong. Turns out it's virus. There's a shift as knowledge accumulates, and that's slow to happen. It's slow to happen, but we are pushing that boundary. Intellectual medicine, the only center in Rhode Island that specializes in chelation therapy. And just as important as applying it is knowing how to apply it. There's a balance between time, money, and outcome. So we advocate anybody with a history of heart disease we feel should be chelating. Strokes should be chelating. High-risk individuals should be thoroughly assessed. Your blood pressure and cholesterol, folks, are not good enough to tell you whether or not you're at risk. Tragically, we lose too many men and women in the prime of their life. Recently lost a great colleague, 58 years old, 59 years old, sudden death. Awful. How come we can't do a better job in 2017 looking at this? Well, you know what? We can. Studies such as calcium scores can look at the arteries and see if there's calcium buildup. The pulse wave velocity test that we use at Intellectual Medicine can tell us how rubbery those arteries are. And you can be guided toward the right intensity of intervention for what you need. So for instance, Shan, I had a patient, a young woman, she's actually 60, came to me from another physician. She's on atorvastatin, also known as Lipitor. No history of heart disease, no history of stroke, nothing. We do a calcium score, it comes back 0, clean arteries. We do a pulse wave velocity, it comes back with an arterial age 10 years below her chronologic age. Do you think she needs the drug?
Why is she on it?
Well, because it lowers the number, and the number looks good to make it lowered. So with that kind of reassurance, we could guide her and take her off of it. So these are the ways you have to be thinking to live your best. Avoid dangerous drugs and focus on things that have the potential to keep you alive younger and longer. So when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the drugs I love to hate, proton pump inhibitors like Prilosec, and another niche where they have been shown to be overutilized. And we're going to talk about breakthrough therapy for cancer. But up next, from the Revolution Soft Wash News Center, Shannon, what is Revolution Soft Wash? What do they do? Anybody know? I think they wash stuff. Roofs. Okay.
Really?
I'm going to call them.
Oh, that's great. We need that done.
I've got a roof covered with moss, and I am not going up there to wash it. So I'm got these Revolution guys. It's Doug Lizette in the newsroom. We'll be back right after that. Thanks, folks.
I thought it was like a car wash.
Doctor in the
You know?
headlines now.
That's what I thought.
Matt Allen is sponsored by them, and I do his show, so that's why I'm
Oh,
talking about Dr. Fanning.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I used to work for him at that center many years ago. It's tragic. What happened to his center? Is it still open?
Yep.
Yeah.
The one in Greenville, it's still, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just bang, gone. 1 second. You know, you would think,
My mom and I were shocked, because my mom was just about to go and have a checkup. She was like, Dad called, and he was like, did you know Dr. Fanning died? And we were like, what?
yeah.
At least says her office.
Shocking.
You know, I can't help but think that it shouldn't have happened, that we should have been able to look under the hood and see problems before they kill you.
He was so healthy. He seemed.
Through Lelling to serve as the new U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts. He's confirmed to replace
Remember
Carmen Dees.
her name?
Lelling has worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office in
I know.
for 12 years.
So that's a Revolution Soft Wash. I thought that's what they did. They go up there with like little spongy things and clean your roof.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
11-5. Patriots next game.
So what are we going to talk about next? You guys having fun this morning? What are you going to do later today? I don't know. It's a beautiful day. It's a Saturday. You got to do something fun. Shannon's going into work today. But you know what? I'm going to guess that she kind of enjoys that. Don't you? You kind of like. She's giving me the evil grimace, folks. This is not going well.
I like work.
Yeah, work is good.
74 on a Saturday.
I've had work and I've had no work. I like work better. To Narragansett Bay Commission, Jeff Bezos, I'm sure he'll be calling up Gina Raimondo any moment now, telling her how impressed she is with Rhode Island and wanting us to just make way for their headquarters. So we could talk about the ENT stuff. Psych disorders on psych meds. Maybe I'll save that for the last section. We talked about exercise. We talked about the cholesterol lowering agents. That Repatha, by the way, is an injectable drug. It costs a ton of money. We're talking thousands per month. It lowers cholesterol beyond what the statin. It's a daily injection.
Oh, daily.
I'm pretty sure it's daily, and it profoundly lowers cholesterol. And the folks that were studying it, they were very excited. They thought this was going to eliminate heart disease. You get that cholesterol low enough, it's going to eliminate heart disease. Well, guess what? It didn't.
Not only that, but I mean, how many studies did they have with normal cholesterol heart attack? Like half the. So what?
And another question, maybe we should pick this up on the other side, Jan. What does cholesterol do that's good? I mean, did God just put it there to croak us?
They're hormones, right?
It's a precursor to hormones. It's a precursor to neurotransmitters.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that obliterating it could have a negative consequence we're unaware of down the road?
I think so.
Could. Is there such a thing as too low with cholesterol? Well, we know there's such a thing as too much with exercise. We got the Gilead cancer thing. We're going to talk about that because I alluded to that in the laryngeal thing. And this ED med thing we must talk about. Marijuana thing I may scratch. I'm so tired of those. I agree with you. These goofy studies where they, you know what those goofy studies do? They enable somebody that has a preformed opinion to get garbage evidence to support it. You know, somebody that hates the idea of marijuana being legalized can throw this goofy study out. You know what? Even if marijuana smoking caused sudden death, I wouldn't care. You know, just put the warning on the box and let people make their choice. It's their prerogative.
Well, you know that smoking causes cancer. All right, people know that. They still choose to smoke.
Yep.
Well,
Wow, look at that hurricane.
I know.
Holy cow. It looks so impressive from the sky. But, you know, it's a guilty pleasure. You got to admit it. Wouldn't you kind of like to have, like, the eye of a hurricane pass over your head?
I don't think so, no. Actually, I remember when I was younger, we had a hurricane, and we all went outside when the eye was
Did the eye go
there.
over you? How was it? Was it
gorgeous, beautiful? It was like blue sky, gorgeous, gorgeous. And then it came back.
I saw
it was like a one, though. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, but that's you're kind of making the point there. It's a fascination of the majesty and power of nature. You get out there, and I wonder if there are people that fly around trying to get into the eye or in the path of a hurricane so that the eye will go over them. You know how people like look for eclipses?
or like tornado people.
They're like tornado chasers, yeah. Well, there are folks that fly into the hurricanes.
That's just stupid.
I don't understand why they do that.
Stupid. We know what's going on. We can see it.
We know it's a
not like
hurricane.
a
We have
tornado.
satellites.
It's been there for like 12 days. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's not like a tornado that goes and stops. We've been watching it.
I don't know. It's just maybe fun flying in the middle of a hurricane.
Really, 185 miles an hour.
I don't know. So that's it. Revolution Software. I got the roof cleaned. Of course, you know, you look at the cost of these drugs, Shen, and you got to weigh it against how we spend money otherwise. For instance, we're spending a...
Do you want the Betty's chorus again, or do you want a song?
Now let's go to some upbeat song. You know, $1 trillion to upgrade the nuclear arsenal over the next 10 years. $1 trillion, right, with a T. What do we get for that? You gonna sleep better at night knowing like the Minutemen silos are upgraded?
Kind of, honestly.
Yeah, kind of. Now, you know what? Some people nobody's advocating at this point that we denuclearize our arsenal, but people have questioned. Oh, look, it's the Benny's commercial. They got to stop. It's killing me.
Right? Cooler, literally anything you needed, you go there.
This is an emergency.
It's going just.
Now, back to Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
Very hard show today, folks. Hang our heads low. So many fond memories of walking into Benny's. Listen, so we have this commission. We're going out there. We're trying to convince Amazon to come here. We have an economic development fund with millions of dollars in it. I think that there should be an emergency committee formed by the state government and look into preserving Benny's. What do you think, folks? Save Benny's. I'm going to go out there with my sign.
Save Ferris.
Save Ferris. Oh. Well, speaking of money, business, and things medical, we did want to talk about this super expensive new breakthrough drug. It's called CAR-T, C-A-R-T. And it's being developed. It's very exciting because it takes your cells, your immune cells, genetically modifies them, targeting the cancer, and re-injects them to kill the cancer. Now, it's still very developmental, but it's got great promise. The catch here is that Gilead is the company that bought this technology. They're the company that brought you hepatitis C treatment for $80,000. I'm sorry, $84,000 per treatment. They're projecting that the treatment for the CAR T is going to go upwards of $500,000.
Okay, but how much does it cost for traditional chemo?
It's a great question. The answer is about $5,000 to $10,000 per month. And
All
they've made that argument that, hey, this is a one and done, so it should be considered. And we were just talking off air about the fact that we're spending $1 trillion in the next 10 years to upgrade our nuclear arsenal. So perhaps this has a niche.
And imagine that for, patients. One, done. You don't have to go through, a year of chemo.
Well, Shan, we do need to turn our attention from this news story to a couple of calls. They've been patiently waiting. First up, we have George from Providence, and George wants to talk about arterial health. Welcome to Intellectual Medicine, George. See there? Well, hey, George. It's Dr. Petteruti. Welcome to the show. I'm well. What's up? George, that's a very sophisticated question. How do you know about CRP? Yep. We'll go ahead. Yep. It's a high sensitivity C-reactive protein is what George is referring to. It's a generic measurement, George, of inflammation. And yes, it does correlate with heart disease. I will say, George, we don't have as much information about that as we do about cholesterol. Now, how does your doctor react when you request that? Is he pleased to do it for you? Okay. What he's saying is that the weight lines up with the CRP. Inflammation, as we speak of often, on a cellular level, it's like sandpaper corroding the cells of your body. And that CRP correlates not only with heart disease, but with cancer and dementia. A CRP that's elevated is worthy of attention. Now, it doesn't respond to traditional drug therapy. You can't take Advil as an anti-inflammatory, for instance, and expect your CRP to get better. However, it does respond to dietary change, excessive intake of animal-based foods, particularly factory meats, can inflame the body. It responds to weight loss. In intellectual medicine, we target men to be below 20%, women to be below 30% of their percent body fat. And we have the technology to assess that. George, we feel that's critical to know, and that's because fat cells create cytokines, which are pro-inflammatory. So that's one way you can go at it. Exercise, and as you heard earlier in the show, too much exercise actually causes inflammation. A modest amount, and I advocate keeping it to 30 minutes of modest exercise can reduce it. And finally, antioxidants. And these are the things that neutralize free radicals. They can be given intravenously, which we do at Intellectual Medicine. Things like vitamin C are antioxidants, glutathione, lipoic acid. So thoughtfully addressed supplements can help, George. And a moment spent with somebody knowledgeable in nutrition would be of value. But as far as a direct correlation, we're not as certain. The reason why doctors like cholesterol, folks, is because it's easy. We got a drug for that. We don't have a drug for CRP, at least not yet. So the target for CRP, by the way, if it's below 1.0, you're golden. If it's below 3, that ain't bad. If it's above that, you got to be thinking. So I hope this helps guide your thought, George. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're just talking about this off air. Doctors have become aggressively pursuing LDL cholesterol for a long time, and it's as if you got to make it lower and lower and lower. These new drugs pound it even lower. That drug I talked about earlier called Repatha, very expensive, obliterates cholesterol, drops it into the basement. And doctors thought it was going to obliterate heart disease, but guess what? It didn't. It lowered it a little bit, but not nearly what they had hoped. But they had so much invested in the drug that it had to come to market. Think about this for a moment. What does cholesterol do that's good for you? You have any idea? Well, it creates neurotransmitters. It creates sex hormones. It's needed to build all the hormones of your body. So God doesn't put stuff in us just to piss us off. It's got a purpose there. And there may be such a thing as going too low with cholesterol. We just don't know. Those long-term 20-year studies are never done. So I think it's wise, George, to be prudent with putting in cholesterol drugs. If you don't have a history of heart attack or heart disease, they've never been proven to have any significant benefit, and they can cause harm. But pulse wave velocity, yeah, it's a beautiful test. It's super simple. There are no needles involved. A probe goes on your finger, one goes on your toe. 10 minutes later, we have a score that tells us roughly what your pulse wave velocity is. It correlates with your arterial age. Now, our goal is to make your age 10 years younger, your arterial age 10 to 20 years younger than your chronologic age. And then you can put together an approach. We were just talking a moment ago about the tragedy of a colleague of mine who dropped dead. Beautiful man. And, we're coming up on the break. Bill, hang in there. We're going to get to you right after the break. But the point was, if you look under the hood before you have a consequence, you got a chance to change the arc of the future. So pulse wave, calcium scores, and being careful with those statins. Up next will be Bill wants to talk about water and peroxide, and we'll also be touching base on erectile medicine and heart disease. We'll be back after the break. I'm Dr. Petteruti.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it really was.
Wherever you are, we are. The voice of Southern New England. News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM. WPRO. The only live and local spot on your radio.
Play slots this September at Newport Grand and earn 5 times the rewards points every Tuesday with bigger giveaways and better rewards than ever before. You won't want to miss it, so be sure to use your rewards card every time you play and watch the rewards roll in. Only at Newport Grand Casino.
The fall is right around the corner, and now is the time to start planning your remodeling projects. I'm Tara Granahan. Start the fall season with an investment that lasts a lifetime, like a new kitchen or bath.
We have 2 callers, Bill from Greenville.
Family business, owners Bill and
I don't know if
Denise
that's going to turn into a question.
We're not trying to be the biggest, we're just trying to do
And
the
I
best.
was going to talk about the erectile dysfunction drugs and heart attack recovery. I think I'll get that in, and the laryngeal thing we can roll forward if we don't have time this week.
Install your new countertops in just one day. Granite countertops by Quality Tile. Check out the showroom. Entire kitchens and baths on display with cabinets, vanities, sinks, and faucets, plus backsplash options, all kinds, all colors. Easy to find right off 295 as if you're going to the Rhode Island Mall. Exit for Route 113. Go straight through that light at Bald Hill Road. It's the 3rd street on the right, 69 Astor Street in West Warwick. Tell the folks at Quality Tile I said hello. Call them 826-9700, 826-9700, or visit qualitytileri.com.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
Do you have a family? Would you like to help make sure they'll be taken care of if anything were to happen to you? If you answered yes, you probably need life insurance. Now, do you think life insurance is expensive? If you answered yes to that too, you definitely need to give AIG Direct a call. We could find you a $250,000 policy for just $14 a month, which means you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Call us now for a free, no-obligation quote. 1-800-700-1368.
Hungry. Can I get some food after?
Since 1995, we've helped millions of people find out if they could save up to
Just realized that.
70% on their term
Just hit me.
See how affordably we can help
Usually I get something first thing in the morning.
AIG Direct now for your free quote. 1-800-700-1368. You can save up to 70%. That's 1-800-700-1368. 1-800-700-68.
Gentlemen, Rhode Island, gentlemen would like to know what the citation for the exercise study was. He wants to send it to a friend with your listing.
Throwing thousands of national
What was that?
customers.
They want to know what the reference is for the exercise and heart attack. They want to send it to
Oh,
their friend.
the reference for exercise and heart attack.
How? Just because you pay National Grid to deliver your electricity doesn't mean you have to buy it from them too. Purchase your home's power from Town Square Energy and secure a rate that is as much as 15% below the current standard supply rate offered by National Grid.
It's from a Mayo Clinic study done in 2014. And if you get me the email address of the questioner, I can email him the detailed link.
Your energy listed as your new electricity supplier.
So
And it's easy to be confused and overwhelmed by all the information out there. Don't let that happen to you. Join Jeff Massey, the founder and CEO of Massey & Associates Inc., and me for Massey on Money every Sunday at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. on News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM WPRO. Perennials Consignment, your home for fun, affordable fashion, is moving to 92 Pershing Avenue off Old Tower Hill Road in Wakefield. Come see Kathy and her helpful staff at the new, brighter, and bigger location with 20 seconds. Think for women and men, featuring items from vintage to new and sizes extra small to 3X. With the bigger store, you will find even more fashion bargains with all the great brands and styles that you love. There's plenty of parking at the new location of Perennials Consignment at 92 Pershing Ave in Wakefield for fun, affordable fashion.
Now, back to Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
Well, I am back, and everybody, thank you for listening, and thanks to Bill in Greenville for your patience. Bill, you are up next on Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Good morning, Bill. I'm feeling great. Yeah. Yeah, hydrogen peroxide is being touted as a remedy for many ailments, and that is, peroxide is what is used as a bleaching agent, as a household cleaner. It is the most abundantly produced peroxide in the country. It's used in industrial uses as well. As far as its use medicinally, Bill, I would proceed with caution. Depending on the type and the potency of hydrogen peroxide, it can be harmful. Now, as far as its benefit, it's an area in which I don't have a deep well of knowledge. I've not come across it in my complementary and functional literature that much. I know many people advocate for it. I'm not a big user. I typically don't recommend it in my practice. Hydrogen peroxide breaks down rather quickly. When we do intravenous vitamin C to help people fight viruses, bacteria, and to help them fight cancer, one of the ways that works is by converting into hydrogen peroxide, where it can attack cancer cells and virions and bacteria. But it's very unstable. So I can't give you are you thinking about the hydrogen peroxide for a medicinal purpose, Bill, or are you concerned about its potential to do you harm? Right. Yep. And you're looking just for general health enhancement. Okay. I would say the food grade in such a small amount is unlikely to do harm. But if you're looking for general health enhancement, Bill, when we're assessing our patients, right, we always look at the big three: heart disease, cancer, and dementia. Those are the big three. That's going to claim most of us at some point if we don't do something about it. The objective of an intellectual medicine, life extension, and youth enhancing treatment is not to be immortal, but to die almost abruptly. You want a short term of illness, a long term of youthful good health, short term of illness. So what's all this leading to? Well, it's good to focus where your primary risks are. If you've got a rip-roaring family history of heart disease, then you want to tilt your use of supplements and tilt your use of intravenous support toward that. As far as daily, look, first let me compliment you on getting a home water filter. I think that's a great idea. Whether or not you put the food grade hydrogen peroxide in it or not, there are so many pollutants and toxic elements in the water, including lead that's in there, that it can't help but give you benefit. Bill, are you researching those water filters now? Hey, do me a favor. After you've completed your research, because I've been meaning to do this, but I'm going to leech off of you. After you do your research, call us back and let us know what you found to be the top three. And I trust you because I know that you're not selling water filters, right, Bill? Good man. See, you're like us, right? Nobody sponsored you, but maybe you'll become famous. You'll be Bill from Greenville, the water filter expert. Get a side business. Bill, thanks for calling in, and keep listening, my friend. All right, bye. That's pretty cool. I kind of want a home water filter, Shan. Can we get one?
Let's move in. Let's finish moving in.
So we have this new house, And we're moving. We had a beautiful time in Providence. We loved living there, but now we're moving back to the suburbs. And we bought a house, and guess what? We had it tested for radon, and it came back positive. Now, the folks living there had been there for 30 years, had never had it radon tested, to my knowledge, but it flunked the test. This is an odorless, colorless gas that's highly prevalent throughout Rhode Island, gets trapped in your house as it leaches up from the earth through your basement, and it's a cause of cancer. So we had an abatement system put in, Shannon. It's this big tube that sticks out of our house. Is it working? Who knows?
I don't know.
Well, we got to get it tested. So that's something you guys should do. Well, I promise you, we have a few minutes. What about heart attacks? Is it safe to have sex? And can you use erectile dysfunction medicine? A study demonstrated that in men who had had a heart attack, first heart attack, those who used Viagra, Cialis, or other drugs like it had a 33% reduction in all-cause mortality. Sex, my friends, is good for you. It appears, and it helps make you live longer. I hope you're listening to all this important. Because, you know, I have patients that will come in, they'll have had a heart attack, and they will back away from physical intimacy. The fear being that it's going to somehow harm them. And I've had patients, Shannon, whose wives and partners would not let them take Cialis because of fear. I hope studies like this can alleviate that fear. You know, go through your cardiac rehab, talk to your doctor. But, you know, these drugs were actually first studied for heart disease. They were the drugs that are good for erections were first studied as a vasodilator to help improve cardiovascular disease in people with angina. And they found out that it worked okay for angina, but eureka, these guys were coming back from the dead. You know, it was a Lazarus drug. The guys in the study were getting erections, and they realized they had a blockbuster. So they repurposed it, and now it's a wonderful aid for men that are battling erectile difficulty. So very safe. You can go forward with that drug with your doctor's consent, and not fear sudden death, not fear the consequence of what comes next. So it's been a fun day. We're talking about heart disease, about cancer. The CAR T technology is fascinating. Look, we don't disparage orthodox research and orthodox medicine. We simply feel that it overshadows other more healthy pursuits. Like folks that have this laryngopharyngeal reflux. It's a fancy word. It means sore throat from acid reflux. And it can mimic sinus infections. You can get sinus inflammation. You can get a sore throat. You can get heartburn. You can get hoarse voice. This can be a real problem. Constant clearing of the throat. These symptoms are often ascribed to acid reflux. And frequently doctors prescribe drugs for that. Hey, we're time pressured. You got 5 minutes, here's a drug. A study found out that if you change diet to more plant-based and you use water to help enhance your diet, that's a base-placed water, that it actually works as good as the drug. You got to be a little bit patient, but what a novel concept, right, folks? Why bother eating well and being healthy when you can just take a pill? The pill has no consequence, and it makes all your symptoms go away. Well, not so fast. Right? We know these drugs can cause harm. We've talked about the statin drugs. They correlate with increased diabetes in some cases. Do you know, Shannon, in women without a history of heart disease, statin drugs have been shown to do more harm than good. And, hearkening back to our patient earlier who had that, the Lipitor drug, we were able to safely take her off of. So as I'm talking about these things, folks, don't abruptly stop your medicines. Go talk to your doctor. All statin drugs are not evil, and in some cases they can do you good. However, there's a gap in our medical knowledge. We were just talking with George about C-reactive protein and inflammation. Doctors
Really wouldn't. No, I wouldn't be into that.
I can count on you to be there, though, right? Push me around and.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
See that, folks? It's every man for himself. You can count on nothing but your own fortitude. So stay well, stay healthy, exercise modestly. Coming up next, we're going to be hearing from Tony DeJesus and Big Blue Bug Solutions. Here's another thing. Go in your garage today and get rid of all that bug juice that you're keeping to kill the ants, and get rid of the weed poison that you use to kill. You ever see these guys walking around the lawn like with flip-flops on, shooting Roundup, killing weeds? What are you doing, folks? It's a carcinogen.
Yeah, and their poor pets are out there.
The pets are
Kids are
kids.
out there.
No, call the pros. But you know what? You know what the bug killing juice is? It's a neurotoxin. You do enough bug juice killing, you're not going to feel so good. Let the pro do it with all of his gear on, and let the soft wash Revolution soft wash guys clean your roof. I'm very excited about that. So, I'm going to have Tony DeJesus kill the bugs at our house. I'm going to have Revolution Soft Wash clean the roof. You think if I keep saying that, somebody will sponsor us?
I was just going to say, you don't get paid for that.
Not a penny. Guys, it's been fun. Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Petteruti at Intellectual Medicine.